So right now, China's top leadership is divided into three main factions. Right? So I just described the process. Now I want to tell you about who are the major players on the battlefield and what are they fighting with and fighting about. So I want to give you a quick rundown of who they are, what power they have, they each hold, and what weaknesses they have. So first, you have the Xi Jinping's own camp, which includes his family, his sister's brother, and his closest inner circle. The biggest advantage for this camp is obvious. I mean, Xi is still the head of the party, the state, and the military. After 13 years in power, he's built an extensive network of loyal followers throughout the government. That's his strength, but his weaknesses are formidable. Xi faces serious challenges. He's being blamed for China's many crises, the economic downturn, domestic unrests, growing international isolation, and a deep loss of faith in the system. So people have simply lost hope. And on top of that, Xi Jinping is politically haunted by two deaths. The first is the death of former Premier Li Keqiang, who died 2 years ago. Li held different views from Xi Jinping. He remained popular even after retirement, and then died suddenly and mysteriously. So Li's death shook the confidence and loyalty of many party officials, because people are saying, if this could happen to Li, then I'm nobody. It could happen to me as well. And the second death is the death of actor Alan Yu, or Yu Menglong, whose strange and violent death sparked rumors of a death offering. Because Yu shared the same birthday as Xi Jinping, many linked his death to Xi and his family's obsession with longevity, both political and physical. So the story went viral, and the story refused to die and turned many young people against the regime, calling the top leader pure evil. Okay, so that's camp number one. And then comes the reformist faction, made up of mostly of technocrats. What's special about this camp? Well, people like Wen Jiabao, Wang Yang, Hu Jintao, and their chosen successor, Hu Chunhua. Now, these officials have something in common. They all came from ordinary families, and they all rose to power when Deng Xiaoping promoted well-educated professionals instead of princelings. Since they lack red aristocratic bloodlines, they've had to rely on performance and integrity to survive. So compared to others, they are relatively clean, no major scandals or corruption. Now, this group initially supported Xi Jinping, but at the 20th Party Congress, Xi Jinping wiped them clean. Hu Chunhua was kicked out of the Politburo. Li Keqiang and Wang Yang were forced to retire. Hu Jintao was publicly forced out of the meeting in front of all watchful eyes. And soon after, Li Keqiang died in retirement. So the reformists have the motivation, the experience, and public sympathy to challenge Xi, but they lack something. They lack courage and remain bound by party rules and legal procedures. In other words, they're terrified of being accused of bringing down the regime, and that's their weakness. And finally, there is the military bloc, led by these two, General Zhang Youxia and retired General Liu Yuan. They're both princelings, and they're not just ordinary princelings. They're princeling heavyweights. Their strength lies in their princeling status and the fact that they have taken control of the military. Regardless what people say, I mean, just judging by the recent events, there's no question that Zhang Youxia is in control of the military. So in a system in which he who controls the gun controls the regime, this military bloc so far has been unchallenged in the PLA. However, their weakness is that they cannot afford to have Xi Jinping around as a ruler. To explain that, I'll just quickly give you the rivalry between Xi and Zhang. Now, their families were close. They were friends going way back. Before his trouble started, Zhang had been a loyal supporter of Xi Jinping and even postponed his retirement to help Xi secure a third term at the 20th Party Congress only 3 years ago. However, after that, Xi became paranoid about Zhang's immense influence in the PLA and began sidelining Zhang. And then Zhang's downfall seemed inevitable. Now, last summer, during the Third Plenum, when Xi Jinping reportedly suffered a health situation, Zhang struck back, and the first person he called was his old friend and fellow princeling, General Liu Yuan. Together, they formed an alliance and quickly and quietly took control of the military. Since then, they've purged many of Xi Jinping's loyalists, including the highest-ranking vice chairman of CMC, He Weidong. Now, these moves amount to a kind of a soft military coup, not open rebellion, but a rebalancing of power. Now, that said, the Zhang-Liu alliance isn't looking to seize political power. Their goal is simply to push Xi Jinping out and steer the PLA back on track. Zhang knows that as long as Xi Jinping stays in power, his own fate could end up like Prigozhin, right? The Wagner chief who challenged Putin and died in a fiery crash. So this faction will do whatever it takes to remove Xi Jinping at the Fourth Plenum because they have no way out. So the reformist faction and the military bloc both want Xi Jinping gone and have formed the backbone of the anti-Xi camp. But they don't agree on how Xi Jinping should step down. Hu Jintao is the highest-ranking living CCP leader or elder. Now, he wants a peaceful power transition to preserve the regime. Xi Jinping, of course, refuses to step down. Zhang Youxia, on the other hand, just wants Xi out, period. So that's the battlefield right now. So no matter which side wins, one thing is crystal clear. The military now holds the deciding power in China's internal struggle. It's the ultimate lever that will determine who stays and who falls. And that rests on the determination of Zhang Youxia. It's still hard to tell who is winning. So the only official signals are CCP's media reports. On the last day before the plenum, the military bloc did something earth-shattering. To give the Xi Jinping camp a stick warning and to prevent the party elders from being indecisive and too lenient, Zhang took matters into his own hands. In an unprecedented move, the defense ministry announced that 9 generals, all Xi Jinping loyalists, had been purged for serious political and economic problems. It was a political earthquake. 9 senior military leaders purged at once. Yet, state media, CCTV did not even say anything, did not even say a word about the military purge. Xinhua and the People's Daily twisted the story to kind of mute the message. Basically, the state media all sided with the Xi Jinping camp by staying as muted as they could, showing clear division between the military and the party. Then, after midnight, on the eve of the plenum, Xinhua suddenly published a lengthy editorial, and the title is Ensuring Decisive Progress Toward Socialist Modernization on the occasion of the 20th CCP Central Committee's Fourth Plenum. In this long editorial, it mentioned Xi Jinping's name 23 times. Every paragraph is about Xi Jinping. It praised him in over-the-top language that almost sounded funny. The editorial message can be summed up simply like this. Everything is good. And everything is good because of Xi Jinping. Everything bad has nothing to do with him. That's basically what this long editorial was saying. And the phrase, the party's Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core, appeared repeatedly throughout the piece, as if to remind everyone who is still in charge. It called the past 5 years as economic miracle. Could you imagine that? Some people think it's a satirical work, but many analysts see this as a strong signal that Xi Jinping still holds firm control and that the editorial was meant to set the tone for the entire plenum.